समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Tensions are soaring between India and Bangladesh. This after anti-India mobs go on the rampage on the streets of major cities and towns of Bangladesh, and a Hindu man has been lynched. In fact, another Bangladeshi has been shot in the head today, this after the killing of Osman Hadi, a well-known anti-India protester. One of the main political parties in Bangladesh, BNP, has blamed the Jamaat-e-Islami for this killing, even as extremists within Bangladesh try to point a finger at the Awami League and, by extension, India, something that India has rubbished. Amid this turmoil within Bangladesh comes the key question: what is Pakistan's role in all of this? The House-led parliamentary panel led by Shashi Tharoor has flagged the involvement of Pakistan and China in Bangladesh and called the situation in Bangladesh India's biggest security challenge since 1971. In Bangladesh, there is in fact an attempt to rewrite the 1971 war's history, the very war that gave Bangladesh its birth. On the program today, we'll be looking at whether Pakistan and Bangladesh are now in this together. This even as Pakistan's Army Chief and Field Marshal Asim Munir makes a rather bizarre speech about divine intervention in Operation Sindoor. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. On the program today, havoc and turmoil in Bangladesh continues unabated. It has been a few days of asking who's really in control. A Hindu man has been lynched to death, but an anti-India protester, Osman Hadi, and today another student leader has been shot at. Osman Hadi was, of course, killed, and his funeral saw a mass turnout, including the head of this interim government, Muhammad Yunus. The question for us here in India is this: even as Hadi's sister spews anti-India venom, as do many of the mob stalking brazenly on the streets of Bangladesh today, is there a convergence of interests and strategy between Pakistan and Bangladesh? Reports suggest that Pakistan and Bangladesh are looking to finalize a Saudi Arabia-style defense and mutual cooperation pact. China has its own role to play in Bangladesh. Tensions are rising, with the rhetoric also ratcheting up between Bangladesh and the MEA responding firmly and strongly. According to a parliamentary panel led by Member of Parliament Shashi Tharoor, the situation in Bangladesh and the roles of Pakistan and China are India's biggest security threat since 1971. In the midst of all of this, a speech by Asim Munir has gone viral. It's a speech where the Field Marshal of Pakistan thanks divine intervention, an intervention he says he could feel during Operation Sindoor, the 4-day military conflict with India. Pakistan and Bangladesh are moving closer together. You could even ask, today, are they two nations with one agenda to somehow try and weaken India and India's security interests? Let me introduce our panel of experts today as we look at a volatile security situation that is basically showing no signs of dimming. On the program today, I want to welcome our Bangladeshi guest for his perspective. Asif bin Ali is with us. He's a doctoral fellow at the Georgia State University. Welcome to the program. Joining us is veteran diplomat Ambassador Yash Sinha. Welcome to the program. Military veteran, former GOC 15 Corps in the Kashmir Valley, General Hasnain. Atta Hasnain is with us. Always a pleasure. And also joining us is Dr. Tara Karta, who's, of course, the former director at the NSCS. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, ma'am. Let's get early thoughts. I'll start with you, General Hasnain. Is there a clear convergence between Pakistan and Bangladesh? Would you go so far as to say so? There certainly seem to be some dots you could join. Let me start with a few that I can spot. One is that the BNP is blaming the Jamaat, which we know has the backing of Pakistan, for the murder of Osman Hadi, someone who has been anti-India, and has even spoken about a so-called Greater Bangladesh, which has included portions of India's northeast. The second is Sheikh Hasina's son, being very categorical in interviews to me and others that he believes that terror groups like the Jaish and Lashkar today have open presence in Bangladesh, even linking the Delhi Red Fort car blast to these groups, right? The third is the kind of Islamist violence we've seen on cultural institutions where even tablas and harmoniums were not spared. Do you see a connection, sir?
Barkha, thank you, first of all, for inviting me for your program. And yes, convergence, absolutely. I would say from 16th of December 1971, when the victory took place and when the surrender took place, Pakistan, as I've always been reiterating, never left Bangladesh. They always knew a time will come. A nation perhaps patient enough to assess that. 50 years later, 54 years later, that time they've assessed has probably come. They always felt that having lost the strategic depth in Afghanistan due to the problem on the Durand line, there is a necessity to seek strategic depth elsewhere. They went in the reverse direction and they found Bangladesh. And the situation in Bangladesh seemed to be just the ideal that Pakistan was essentially looking for. Whether this was triggered or it just emerged, that's a different issue. But to my assessment, this entire thing was triggered by some kind of an organization which had Pakistan's interests in mind. And therefore, what you're seeing happening in Bangladesh at the moment essentially is a reinvigoration of the eastern flank of India. Strategically, if you just look at it, that is sufficient to cover the entire factors, the entire issue of the threats which emanate from here, whether it's terrorism, whether it's insurgent leaders, whether it is finances, whether it is radicalism, and I fear even at some stage there may possibly be a proxy-sponsored terror attack cross-border.
Okay, that's a grim scenario, but I think a realistic scenario that you paint. And I want to bring in Ambassador Yas Sinha at this point. You know, when we look at these images of Bangladesh, literally like a ticking firebomb, the violence, the arson, the carnage on the streets, the targeting of religious minorities, Hindus in particular, the burning of newspaper offices, including the Daily Star, the fact that even artifacts, musical artifacts have not been spared. There is a clearly sort of Islamist dimension to the violence. But if I were to join the dots, if we go back a few months, you had the Pakistan Army Chief talking about how the new threat to India would come from the east. You then had the ISI Chief repeating this. You then had Bangladeshis like Osman Hadi, who've been killed, also talking about a greater Bangladesh in which the east was looked at. You've had Yunus making some very inflammatory comments. There seems to be a convergence of agendas, at least a convergence of rhetoric. Ambassador Sinha.
You know, I think there is a larger picture here, I think, which we must understand. I think General Hassan alluded to it, the forces behind what is happening and what has happened since August 2024. I mean, I wouldn't like to comment on, you know, how spontaneous that uprising was and how despotic the previous regime was. The fact is that there was a convergence of interests. Pakistan, certainly, but Pakistan alone, perhaps not, encouraged by certain forces in the West. And that is what is at play. And what was actually quite surprising.
Do you mean, hand? I'm sorry, I'm interjecting you and asking you directly. Do you believe that the United States of America has a hand covertly in what's happening in Bangladesh? Or what happened in Bangladesh to oust Hasina?
All I can do is to point you to the handle, the U.S. Embassy handle in Dhaka, condoling the death of Osman Hadi, and of course the statements on X made by some other Western embassies also. So I think when I allude to Western forces, it's a broad array of forces. Earlier, we linked certain international NGOs who were responsible. But since, you know, I don't have any concrete evidence in my hands, I'm not going to point fingers. But certainly, there is a suspicion that there are larger forces at play, and India is this oasis of stability surrounded by unrest all over. If you remember what happened in Sri Lanka, then Bangladesh, Nepal, and there are people talking about Gen Z movements in India too. So I think it's very clear what the agenda is. I think we need to be very mindful. And, we've handled, General Hasnain knows better than me, a unified Pakistan, we put it that way, the East Wing and the West Wing. And this is not 1971, because I know how the overflight bans were circumvented, etc. in 71. It's not going to happen so easily now. So I think when the Field Marshal talks about his divine intervention, he is right. There was divine intervention. It saved Pakistan.
And you're saying the divine intervention rests in the West somewhere. Let's just say that.
No, the divine intervention basically saved Pakistan from annihilation because he felt it. He felt it. So obviously there were some deeper forces at play which bailed Pakistan out. And that's why their DGMO sued for peace.
Yeah, let me actually play out before I come to Dr. Karta and our guest from Bangladesh, this statement of Asim Munir. It is, by all accounts, an absurd statement for a military man to make. I don't begin to understand it. We felt it. I mean, is this how wars are fought? I don't know. Let's listen in and then get reactions.
और हमने अल्लाह की मदद आते हुए देखी, महसूस की। वही अंसुरकुमुल्लाहु फला गालिब लकुम, हमने महसूस किया। तो जो कहा हुआ है ना, इसमें 100% हकीकत है कि फजाए बद्र पैदा कर, फरिश्ते तेरी नुसरत को उतर सकते हैं गर्दों से कतार अंदर कतार अब भी। सिर्फ ये कि हमने अपने तौर तरीकों को ठीक करना है, बस। और ये बुनियाद महसूस के अंदर ये हुआ, La ilaha illallah wahdahu sadaq.
So that's Asim Munir talking about feeling a divine intervention in the Operation Sindoor conflict. Dr. Karta, there's a lot to say about that speech, but there's also a lot to say about reports that suggest that Pakistan and Bangladesh are moving towards a mutual defense cooperation pact. Bangladeshis, and I don't know if our present guest is included, but some of the Bangladeshis I've been interviewing in the last few days, I've got into arguments with them on my shows, which is something that almost never happens with me, because they have sought to erase the entire history of 1971. They have sought to erase the heroic role of the Indian Army in birthing Bangladesh. The convergence of interest between this regime in Bangladesh and Pakistan, it cannot be escaped anymore. The parliamentary panel's report has just flagged it a few days ago. How do you see what's happening?
See, the one thing I want to I hope you won't use the word Gen Z. This is not a Gen Z revolution. It is totally not. This is a contrived one. So that let's not go down that road at all. One. Number two is the fact, I think this is the ones who are protesting are one minuscule part of Bangladesh. Let's not say the whole of Bangladesh is on this. They're not. This is one lot which is doing all this, and the whole point of the exercise is to get you to go and interfere there and to spoil our relations, if possible, to get us to go to, well, not war perhaps, but some kind of a conflict with Bangladesh. That is the object.
You're actually saying that the provocation is that basically there's some sort of military conflict between India and Bangladesh?
That's what they're trying to get. Yes. I mean, didn't you see that the Bangladesh supposedly, I'm not going to say it is, a Navy ship which hit a fisherman boat, and I think 11 of them are missing, if I've got the number right. You've got tensions along the border. You've got the Bangladesh border forces are, well, the border is not in a good state. Then you had the burning of this Hindu guy. What more provocation do you want? I mean, they are trying to tell you, go in and do something. And third thing I really want.
Who's the they?
I would say the Pakistanis told you. Asim Munir said, we will attack you from the east. He said so. So what more do you want? But also, that is a little simplistic. So we'll add a little more to that. But before that, I want to say one more thing. This guy Hadi, who was killed, he was not some great youth icon. I mean, I'm amazed that everybody defines him and the person who was killed recently. He was a student leader from NCP and he was anti-India. So they are defined as anti-India, which all of them are. It was not just this man. All of the young leaders who supposedly who are standing out, I mean, they are the whole Northeast narrative. Who started it? Yunus started it. So to say that Hadi was picked out by India because he was anti-us is ridiculous. You'll have to then bump up the entire lot. So there's a lot of narrative which is being pushed into the media, and some of which we ourselves are propagating. So we have to be very careful what we say. You get what I'm trying to say?
I 100% get what you want to say, but I want to pick up on this last point. Provocation for a military conflict between India and Bangladesh that you think would suit Pakistan perfectly, because there's Operation Sindoor still only on pause. So there's already anxiety, or friction is the better word, not anxiety, friction on the Western front. And now they're playing on the Eastern front. That's actually what you're saying very directly, Dr.
Yes,
Khadga.
it is. Because I'm just quoting Munir. That's what he said. So, but is it only Pakistan? No, that's a little, like I said, that's oversimplifying the whole issue. There is a huge amount of youth unemployment. Huge. It is massive. There is inflation. Growth has dropped, I think, 2%. I mean, I'm putting all this together as accounting for the rage that you're seeing, and the fact that there is a Turkish angle and there's a Chinese angle. There's a bunch of Turkey-funded institutions on the ground, I'm not going to name them, who are churning out a lot of stuff against India. Whether this is deliberate or whether it just happens that Turkey is funding that institute, which is doing its own thing, I don't know.
Let's get a Bangladeshi perspective. I want to bring in Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali, I should say ahead of time that my red lines will be something that you say about my military. I've already established those as my red lines. Other than that, we're quite open always to have an amiable disagreement as needed. How are you seeing what's happening in your country, sir?
Thank you, Ms. Burkha. First of all, I'm not representing neither Bangladesh nor India. I'm representing myself. Fair. And before I jump in the conversation, I just want to point out some of the facts to be straight. Like, for example, when you are saying that BNP has blamed Jamaat and for the recent killing, and the photograph right now you're just showing, this is not actually a BNP person. This is a Jamaat person. His name is Barrister Shishir Munir. And
yes, but there is a video clip, sir. There is a video clip of a lady from the BNP. It's very viral. I can play it for you if you want. She names this person and she basically makes the argument that twice this person got bail, a Jamaat-linked person got bail who had threatened Hadi. So I have done my homework on this. I'm happy to play the clip.
Just the video point you are referring. So particularly, I have also seen that video. She is just a leader, neither representing BNP officially. And this is a kind of debate right now going on in Bangladesh, that there is one lawyer from BNP and one lawyer from Jamaat are blamed each other that who has bailed them. Okay. Now, the second thing I would like to also include, Hadi was not an NCP leader. He was an independent. He was the spokesperson of Inqilab Moncho. So that is another fact. Now, I just want to start with what Asim Munir was saying, and we are talking about a lot. So what Asim Munir was reciting the Quran from Quran, that was from, the reference was from Badr, and that the God sent the help to, save the Muslim army from the infidels. But the point is, whenever we see dictators in the Muslim worlds, be it like Pakistan or some other places, they often use Quran. But I don't think like this is a good way of using Asif Munir's frame to look at Bangladesh. Particularly, I do not disagree with you that the current Bangladesh situation is very alarming, and that there is very serious anti-India sentiment on the ground, and that of course there are provocations. But I think you are giving too much credit to Pakistan, too much that they deserve. And by doing so, you are also doing injustice towards how India is looking at the Bangladesh crisis, and which is also, I find, one of the responsible reason that India is kind of confused about how to deal with Bangladesh right now.
Can you give
Now,
an,
why
can
I'm
you give an
making this?
example?
Yes,
Can you give an example?
why I'm making it. So see, Bangladesh is right now is not facing the Pakistan issue. Bangladesh is facing pan-Islamism, if you want to better understand it. Pakistan issue was a 1990s 2000 thing, like many Indian diplomats made this claim that, okay, Afghan Mujahideens came in Bangladesh and they started a new kind of war during 2000, and Cocoon of Terror, it is one of the article written by an Indian journalist once, played a key role of understanding Bangladesh from the Pakistan frame. But when you're looking at the 2020 crisis or 2024 crisis, I think you need to expand your horizon. Pakistan is a poor country, neither it has money to play in Bangladesh or the influence, but there are other countries, as one of my colleagues just mentioned about. I don't want to go details in it. However, now let's come, like the argument that I am trying to make is that right now, whatever the anti-India sentiment you are seeing, India is not the victim of that anti-India sentiment, but the Bangladesh citizen is the victim of that anti-India sentiment. The Hindu killing that you have mentioned, yes, he was killed, and it's very likely that his identity played a key role in his killing. But also there was a Muslim Sufi who died, and after his death, his body was taken out from the grave and burned. Now, you can frame both the incident from one Hindu perspective, from one Muslim perspective. Now, I, as a researcher, I would be framing it as a Bangladesh citizen perspective. And the kind of radicalism right now we are dealing in Bangladesh, actually, my country's people, the citizens, are the victim of that radicalization. Yes, there were provocations in different way when the Bangladesh leaders, like some of them, talk about like the Seven Sisters, and in response, like Assamese chief minister also talk about Bangladesh incorporating in India and building the greater India. I don't want to go to those political rhetoric, because you, as a seasoned journalist, you know how these politicians speak. They always use with the rhetoric. But then let's come to what's actually going on in Bangladesh. If you really want to understand what's going on in Bangladesh, now you need to think out of the box. Otherwise, if you use the 2020 framework, that is not going to help.
Okay, hold on. Let me just distill your argument into 2 or 3 points. Okay, I think what you're saying is India should not look at what's happening in Bangladesh through the prism of Pakistan. That's an old template. You acknowledge the anti-India sentiment. You also acknowledge, and that's very significant, pan-Islamism. And you're saying that while Hindus are victims of that, so are Muslims who do not want to live like that, right? I take the point. In fact, the reference that you made of the Sufi Muslim, we have that story on our screen right now for our audience to have a look at. Let's bring in Ambassador Sinha on a couple of these points, as well as General Hasnain and Dr. Karta. It's an interesting point. I think what Asif is saying is Pakistan is too narrow a lens to look at what's happening in Bangladesh. It's a little bit similar to what you're saying. There are larger forces at play. There are other countries. There's a greater game on. That, Bangladesh may have become the next great game. That almost seems to be what's unfolding. And if I read between the lines, Asif isn't naming the countries, but he's saying, don't be naive to think this is only about Pakistan. Ambassador Sinha?
Absolutely. I think I agree with Mr. Ali that there are larger forces at play. And I think India has been very mature in the way it's handled it. I'm not talking about the media or the public reaction. I'm just talking about the government. The government has been very measured in its reactions, and they have tried to reach out as much as they could. I think it's in the interest of Bangladesh and the region to concentrate on a peaceful transfer of power when elections are held in Bangladesh. And this sort of turmoil before the election doesn't bode well. So I think India would like to wish Bangladesh all the very best in the conduct of free and fair elections. And despite the fact we know that the largest party in Bangladesh has been banned from participation, and that's really unfortunate. But be that as it may, I think India does not really want to sort of go down the path of confrontation. And I think
but they would argue that Sheikh Hasina being here has now become a liability. Some people would argue that it's been a high-risk decision by India. What would you say?
Sheikh Hasina here? We did invite her in. it was the Pakistani, the Bangladesh army and their chief that facilitated her flight, I can put it for lack of a better word, to India. So it was obviously when we were faced with a fait accompli, we didn't turn her back. We don't do that to friends. But I think what is important is that while her stay here may be a red rag to a few or to many in Bangladesh, the fact is that the trial that she supposedly underwent was a farce. And we know that by all acceptable juridical standards, I think it was a farce. She was not allowed to defend herself, etc. And she was condemned and then condemned to death. So I think, I don't want to go into the merits of that case. What I'm trying to say is that Sheikh Hasina is in India, and that's a fact. She came in, and I wouldn't say came in uninvited, but certainly we didn't ask her to come. It was her flight to India was facilitated by the Bangladesh army, and we didn't turn her away. But I think Bangladesh needs to understand that even though they have already moved on the extradition front, it takes time for any extradition process to be followed through to its logical conclusion.
You're the expert here, but I would also argue that if this sort of anti-India inflammatory rhetoric, violence on religious minorities continues, there's no question that India will budge on the Hasina issue. It's all interrelated in the end. It's for Bangladesh to find its own balance as a genuine democracy, for Hasina to actually be able to go back to her own country. General Hussain, I want to... And defend herself. General Hussain, I want to come back for a moment to Asim Munir and the connections, even though our friend from Bangladesh says that's too narrow a lens. But, we have Prasad in our audience looking at the Munir speech and saying, this is a speech of an Islamic preacher, not that of an army officer. I have proudly said these 30 years that Bangladesh is a vibrant democracy. I hope that we don't start hearing some such speeches from Bangladesh now. What did you think when you heard Munir? And how deep do you think the connection is between Pakistan and the current unrest in Bangladesh? Or do you believe, like Ambassador Sinha, there are other countries? Do you believe, like Asif, that's too narrow? What do you think?
Barkha, I'll take a little time on this, and I may like to put my point, which is slightly different to Mr. Asif's point.
Yes.
This issue of localization of factors in Bangladesh is not my cup of tea. This whole business starts from Pakistan. I may remind you, 1977, perhaps you may not have been born even that time. 1977.
Born exactly in December 1971. 71.
77, I'm saying.
Oh, 77. Yes.
When Ziaul Haq came to power, the only thing he found, the way that they could fight a war against powerful India, militarily stronger India, economically stronger India, was through the hybrid route. The hybrid route, one of the most important issues in the hybrid route was the aspect of ideology. And since 1977, Pakistan has gone hammer and tongs after this whole issue of ideology. You know what element of the Pakistan army is radical in their thinking. What Munir is doing is playing on that sentiment. He himself, of course, is a Hafiz. Not necessarily that every Hafiz is a radical, but Munir thinks that he can use this kind of an ideology strategically. And he's found himself an ideal situation in Bangladesh to export this, encourage it, sponsor it. I would not agree with saying that Pakistan does not have money, Mr. Asif. You are sadly mistaken. The money which Pakistan has got is just nobody's business. What you see is the tip of the iceberg. The kind of black funds that they've got, the kind of drug funds. You think legitimate money is coming to sponsor things in Bangladesh? Everything is coming out of sponsorship of drug circuits. Everything out of the arms trafficking. These are the kind of things that Pakistan has been involved with. Ask us. We've seen this in Jammu and Kashmir for the better part of the last 36 years. The kind of networks which were established for this. This is exactly what Pakistan is doing today in Bangladesh. And what you're seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't agree with anyone who says that these are all not radicalized. You saw the kind of crowd which has turned up there in the funeral.
Yeah.
If they are not radicals, I wonder who is.
Well, Asif is saying that it's pan-Islamism. He is saying that.
I would say pan-Islamism to an extent, yes. Some years ago, I would have believed that there is a tremendous effort trying to bring about a radicalized network of Islamic countries around the world. Saudi Arabia, the core center of Islam, itself has withdrawn back. Right? Yeah. So what are we talking about? We know there are countries involved. We know there are elements in different countries involved. But the larger network of sponsoring nations does not exist. Pakistan is the core center of that. Pakistan is the one which is doing this. And our attention and focus must be completely on Pakistan. I may also just mention this meeting with the ulemas. He's done this before also many times. Once before, he has spoken about the two-nation theory. He's quite used to doing this kind of rhetoric from time to time, right? Yeah. We found very approving kind of nods coming from the ulema audience. I have recently attended an ulema conference in Delhi. Let me tell you, we were elements from every religion there. To see India the way we look at it, the ulemas were all there welcoming all kinds of issues regarding plurality, regarding secularism and things like that. Don't expect all this from Pakistan. For Pakistan, this is a weapon. And Munir is going to continue effectively using this weapon.
And may I ask you, because you mentioned it in your opening comments, but we didn't zoom in on it. Do you agree with Dr. Karta that the game seems to be to provoke a military conflict between India and Bangladesh?
Well, I won't say that anyone in Islamabad will imagine that this kind of a thing can immediately spark off a conflict between India and Bangladesh. But conflicts today are of all different kinds. I'm not talking about conventional conflicts. Yes, cross-border, a lot of issues will take place, a lot of rhetoric will take place, a lot of diplomatic kind of issues will happen, and that itself is equivalent to modern-day conflict today. So that's the kind of situation, that the antipathy within Bangladesh that he wants to create.
Yeah. I think that's very clearly said. Ambassador Sinha, did I see your hand going up for an interjection? You're okay?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Ali, let me bring you in. You've heard a very deeply felt Indian perspective that you cannot say Pakistan is the old lens. Pakistan is the lens. And certain things have happened, including, cozying up to Trump, a business equation with Trump and Islamabad, right? A cryptocurrency relationship. Now, troops may go to Gaza, I mean, unheard of, to support the American sort of venture, for lack of a better word, or the American mission or the American game in Gaza. Troops may go from Pakistan or likely to go from Pakistan. So how do you erase Pakistan from the equation? Asif?
Okay. Ms. Barkha, do you know how many Mujahideen have been sent to Pakistan in last 15 months to fight the war against the Pakistan army from Bangladesh?
I have no idea. You can tell me.
Okay, 19 so far. That is the proven number. Now, these numbers are coming from the investigative journalists who are saying that the pro-Taliban group, who are very active now, and which I find a sincere and serious security threat for Bangladesh, has sent several groups of people to fight war against Pakistan army, and these people went to Pakistan by crossing West Bengal border through the Kashmir. Now,
hang on. You're saying they can... No. Hang on. Hang on. You are actually suggesting that there are folks who came in from West Bengal, then from Bengal they went to Kashmir, and from Kashmir we exfiltrated them into
you haven't.
Pakistan to fight the Pakistan Army.
No. Wait. Please don't misread me. India has nothing to do with this sending. This was purely a Bangladeshi, outfit. They believe that the Pakistan army needs to be overthrown, and they are sending their people. And out of that 19, at least 5 of them died. And then some of their bodies, I guess, buried there as well. And this became a big news in Bangladesh. What I'm trying to say is that if you really want to serve the Indian national security interest better, don't close your eyes about what is happening in the eastern border. Just because you are so much captured with the Pakistan fear. And I do understand. I do understand. So the thing is that, now let me explain.
Give me 10 seconds. It's not Pakistani fear. It is not fear. That's not the word I think anybody in India would use. It is simply recognition. We have been victims of Pakistan's proxy war for 30 years, and we have fought it and will continue to fight it. That said,
Okay.
what do you think? What do you think we are missing on the eastern border? What do you think we're missing?
You look, I really have nothing to say about how you frame and discuss about your internal security matters. That is purely your area. What I'm trying to say is that if you really want to understand the Bangladesh case in the post 5th August, there is 4 players who are playing. The one player is basically BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. They are a kind of centrist political party, sometimes go left, sometimes go right, depending on the need. The second political force is Jamaat-e-Islami, and that is a right-wing group. And this right-wing group, basically, they often claim that they have very good relationship with Pakistan, and Pakistan also endorse them to some extent. The third group, which came a new political party, that is NCP, from the July uprising, and they though claim they want to be centrist, but depending on whatever the activities they are doing, there could be more, termed within the more right group. Now there is a fourth group, and the fourth group, we are calling it the far right group. Okay, and this far right group has 2 subgroups. The one is Hizb ut-Tahrir. So Hizb ut-Tahrir is, I think Indian security expert, they know who study Bangladesh. So Hizb ut-Tahrir is a group that wants to convert Bangladesh into Islamic State, and they want to use military to achieve that gain. Now, another subgroup is pro-Al-Qaeda and pro-Taliban group. And these group have the similar goal like Hizb ut-Tahrir, but they have a different approach of achieving that. And that is politicizing the case. Now, when you are using Pakistan frame, and see, while I'm saying it's narrow, because the Pakistan frame is only helping you to understand the Jamaat phenomena.
Element of it. And
element of Jamaat. But then beyond that element, the security risk even Bangladesh is right now facing is this far right group. And these group, if you need to understand it, that is fair. That is fair. Asif, that is a fair articulation that you have explained to us in a very accessible way, and I thank you for that. I think all we're trying to say is state to state, right? Of course, Pakistan doesn't explain all of this radicalization necessarily, not all of it. We take that point. General Hassan feels that Pakistan is at the epicenter of all of it. I'm willing to go along with your saying that it doesn't explain all of it. But sir, we are talking right now about Pakistan and Bangladesh basically moving to inking a defense cooperation pact. Okay, tell me what's the report on that? Please refer me the report, because I have seen that report as well. Like, for example, even in these discussion, we have used information which says that Bangladesh Navy has caused sinking, 1 Indian boat caused 11 people died. Now 3 fact-checking organization fact-checked that information, and it has come as a fake news. Now, see, what I'm trying to say is that when we are operating in these cases, in the security area, there is so many fake information around it. I'm not denying the recent over relationship with Pakistan between Bangladesh. I do see it as a serious problem as well. But what I am trying and what I am requesting all of you to understand is that, see, if you really want to address both the interest of India and Bangladesh and the security, because both the country is importantly connected to each other's security, then try to expand the horizon. Otherwise, when there would be drone attacks cross-border, when there would be cross-border terrorisms, you would be lost. I mean, there is no way solution there. And therefore, I'm trying to say, focus on Pakistan. I have no problem with that, but also expand the prism.
Okay. We have to start taking last comments. I've asked my producers to pull out the headlines on the Bangladesh-Pakistan cooperation. Here is one such report. Pakistan eyes Saudi Arabia-like security pact with Bangladesh, what it means for India. These are many such reports.
Have you read this report? I have read this report. Have you read this report?
Hang on. I know it's source-based. I know I can't empirically prove it to you. However,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Mr. Ali, now I've heard you patiently. Now please let me respond. However, there is no doubt about the fact, and we can show those visuals, that in the very month that India has just commemorated Vijay Diwas, which is the day when the 1971 victory in the war with Pakistan birthed what was then East Pakistan. We midwifed it and birthed it into Bangladesh. We have had Bangladeshi after Bangladeshi, not you, basically erase this entire war and speak up for Pakistan. We have seen now let me
Barka, what I am just worried about, because I have the same problem even in my country. I am seeing my country's history is being getting altered by Jamaat and their followers. and we are protesting it.
Okay, let me not hog this mic. Let me get the others to respond. You've spoken, I've spoken. Dr. Karta. Dr. Karta, ma'am. I can't hear, ma'am. Yeah, now I can.
I agree a lot with what Mr. Ali says. This is extreme right wing fighting the right wing. This is what basically the underlying thing is. That he's absolutely right. Hezafat-e-Islam, Hizbul Tahrir, and a bunch of goons. But the problem, Mr. Ali, is that this right wing sentiment is being turned against us. Where did the anti-India thing come from? In the murder of this guy, now you have very responsibility. Responsibility. A Bangladeshi official has said, we have no idea where this killer has gone. We don't know where he is. And here and please remember, the foreign minister summoned the Indian envoy and said, this man who killed him has gone to India. What business did he have doing that? That is what turned the whole thing against India. So there are some very puzzling things here. But I agree with you. There is a tide of extremism which both countries have to jointly work with. And you're absolutely right in that.
Okay. Let me take this to Ambassador Sinha and then give General Hasnain the last word. Ambassador Sinha, where from here?
I think the fact that there is a cozying up, for lack of a better word, between Pakistan and Bangladesh is indisputable. You're showing photographs of the Pakistani Foreign Secretary, Amna Baloch there, the way she was received, how senior generals from the Pakistan Army have been received. So we know what is happening. It's not that we are not aware of that link. And I think Pakistan is in a fountainhead of not just terror, but creating mischief and trouble for India, because after all, its only ideology is anti-Indianism. So I think we need to be prepared for that. As far as Bangladesh is concerned, these hotheads, and I include the Yunus interim government. Do you think that the Yunus interim government or the advisors, or whatever they're called, are being impartial, or they're being sort of holding out a hand of friendship to India? No, they don't. From their statements, you could make out. I think Dr. Karta mentioned about Yunus's statement in the Northeast, but it's been repeated by others, advisors, student leaders, etc. So we can't dismiss them, these statements, as fanciful statements or rhetoric by politicians. Certainly not if you're a planner. You need to plan for that, and I'm sure our strategists and our military planners are factoring that in. But however, it is certainly a cause for worry. We can't be complacent. We can't have our neighborhood completely in turmoil and being exploited by external forces against us. So we have to be very mindful of the threat that exists at the present moment.
Barkha, can I have like 30 seconds only?
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one point. I do understand, like, our Indian friends are very worried about the anti-India sentiment, and I do not deny that as well. But what I am trying to implore you to see is that the anti-India sentiment is very much getting used in Bangladesh by the far-right political group and the right-wing political group to silence all the voices who are critical to them. Like just 2 days ago, the country's two biggest newspapers have been burned to ashes because they presumed as pro-India. Now, there was no conclusive evidence that they are just doing their journalism. So anti-India sentiment is not only targeting India, it is targeting basically the domestic political actors. Yes, it has some cross-border implications and provocations, but the people who are doing provocations, they also understand they can't do anything with India. India is a powerful state and everything. Yeah. But the main target is basically the citizen, the critical voice of Bangladesh who are aspiring for a democracy.
Okay. General Hasnain, the closing word to you.
Last 45 minutes or so, we haven't even mentioned the Bangladesh Army. Yeah. One of the most important entities in this entire great game which is going on in Dhaka and around, right? My experience of the Bangladesh Army, and I served very extensively with it, shows me that it is, yes, there is this element of radicalism within it, within its ranks, not so much in the officer cadre, in the lower ranks, but by and large it's a pragmatic professional force. I'm not sure how much of outreach we are doing to the Bangladesh army, because when all other parleys, diplomatic, commercial, etc., when they don't really work, it is the military to military, the mill which always works. And I can tell you the relationship between the two armies has been very, very sound over the last many, many years, particularly in United Nations peacekeeping operations. And I remember that I visited Bangladesh army establishments in Dhaka and spoken at all of them, right? So I dare say in this entire game, the one sensible element which is emerging and has not shown its colors in every right or left way has been the Bangladesh army. We haven't heard about it too much, but my assessment is it is still one of the very important entities which we need to ensure that we support.
I think that's a really interesting point, especially when you contrast it with what's happening with the Pakistan military. And so it is going to be critical to see what role, what position the Bangladesh military takes, and also what happens in the run-up to the elections in Bangladesh. We leave it there for now. A feisty debate, but as should be, with no disrespect to anybody. But of course, we will argue this from our perspective, from the perspective of us as India, caught in a strange sort of situation with a country that was a friendly nation, a country with whom we had very deep connections, a country where Asif still reminds us that there are many people who remain pro-India, where the anti-India mobs are turning on India, yes, are turning on religious minorities, yes, but are also turning on internal voices of even fair dissent. We will leave it there. Thank you very much to Asif Ali, to Ambassador Sinha, earlier to Dr. Karta, and of course to General Hasnain. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow. Have a great evening. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.